unspeakable and full of glory, full of glory, full of glory. It is joy, unspeakable and full of glory, has never yet been told. Oh, it is joy, unspeakable and full of glory, full of glory, full of glory. It is joy, unspeakable and full of glory. The half has never yet been told. Amen. Brethren, I am feeling happy today. I am a very happy man today. And it is because of the festival of God. The days of unleavened bread and what it signifies. It is so beautiful. And when you have a night like last night, there is nowhere in God's congregation, no place that had a better night to be much observed than the one we had last night. Amen. I'm just going to give a brief recap of what happened last night for those who weren't there for the benefit, because it's what took place should not be not known. Should be known. It must be known what happened and what we enjoyed last night. So, yes, all of us. I have the video recordings of the loud noise and the chants that took place at 9:30 when we should be going home. We're still there, enjoying ourselves. So we started the night at 7:15. We had about 60 odd persons in attendance. Clarky was saying somewhere around 80. Right? Let's go in the average and say 70. We had about 70 persons in attendance. And to be honest, I saw after the the Passover night, I saw Deacon Clark at Mega Mart. And I said to him that, it seems as if the whole church are going to come out. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I was, when I saw, because the start time was 6 o'clock, 6:30. And when I went there, just a few persons were there. So I said, all right, maybe it look like, they're not going to come out as much. But when it got to 7 o'clock, persons were standing at the door. We never had seats for them. And we had to rush come to this auditorium now to pick up the chairs and go back. We opened, we sang songs. Brother Jonah opened with prayer. Brother Murphy did a beautiful 15-minute presentation on what it meant the night to be much observed. And then persons went on into some words of encouragement. Different persons talked about how they can stay, how they can remain in the faith. Because what we did the Passover night was to recommit, renew our vows with God. And so persons were just there strengthening each other to, stay in the faith. And then we had a very friendly competition. We had 3 games, and I tell you guys, it was a very, very close game. We had 2 teams, Team A and Team B, and 3 different competitions. And in the last competition, the third one, the points were almost tied. It was Team A on 4 points and Team B on 20 points. So the last game that we played, I decided, to give the Team B, Team A rather, the opportunity to win. Because if you have the last game and there's not, no chance of them winning, then they wouldn't want to play. So I said, all right, we're going to make this last game 17 points. So if they won with 4 points, they would have gone 21 and would have beaten Team A, Team B. It was very close, believe me, very, very close. At the end of the night, the scores were Team A on 4 points and Team B on 37 points. And I tell you, brethren, it was very close, very competitive. Sister Denise and Simone and Mishka, they were shouting on top of their voices because they said they wanted justice, it's not fair. And of course, you know that they were on the losing team. Brethren, I tell you, I was coming to church this morning, and I said to Jason, if we continue like this, the whole church are going to come to all night to be much observed. And we're going to revert to the old fashion that we had, where it's one group, one big group. So it's not an advertisement, but I'm just saying that this thing happened. And someone said to me earlier today that the night ended well. No, they just said the night ended well. And so you guys are waiting in anticipation. I did ask the question, I did pop the question, and the answer was a resounding yes. So it's official now, you all know. I've made it public, and I just wanted to hold us up in your prayers as we go on this new journey. My thought was this season signifies stepping into the newness of life, and that's what I wanted for me and Rosanne to start preparing for this newness of life, and thought it would have been the most appropriate time to do it, and it was well received. Yes, so thank you very much. Notwithstanding, the season is a very, very important season. The Passover night to be much observed, and the days of unleavened bread. If you've been in the church for a while, you would have known that this night, this day signifies getting rid of sin, completely eradicating sin out of our lives. And that is what, on the self-same day, when the Israelites were stepping out of Egypt, they were not observing the unleavened bread period like how we're observing it now. They were on the move, and that's how we ought to see. We ought to see the days of unleavened bread. It's not just about taking the bread out of your houses and cleaning up crumbs behind the back of the fridge and all these things. That's a part of it. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Ironically, and I can say this without fear of contradiction, there are persons who would extend more effort to clean up their houses, clean up their cars, ensure that the crumbs is not there, than their actual lives, than actually removing sin from their lives. I kid you not. I can say it without fear of contradiction. And the Pharisees were guilty of this. And we read the stories in the Bible of how Israel did that to God, and how the Pharisees were. And we're doing the same thing. We can be very guilty of doing the same thing. If you read Matthew 16, verse 6, you don't have to turn there, but Jesus said to his disciples, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. They have been with Jesus the whole time, right? And when Jesus said that, they said, is it because we didn't bring any bread? And he said, how can you be with me so long? You were there when I fed the 5,000 with the 5 loaves. You were there when I fed the 4,000 with the 7 loaves. How can you possibly think that I'm talking about bread? You have little faith. It's not about bread, but they didn't understand it at the time. And it's after Jesus said that, they realized that he was talking about beware of the teachings of the Pharisees. And it's not so much a teaching of the Pharisees now, because later down in Matthew 23, Jesus said to the crowd and his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. So be careful to do everything they tell you to do, but not what they do. Why? Because they do not practice what they preach. So we can easily fall into that trap. I tell you, we get into this ritualistic idea of what the days of unleavened bread represent. And we go on spring cleaning 1 week before the days where I make sure it's a bread, not a sight of bread is found in the house. There's no patty crumbs underneath the car seat. And we ensure flip out all the cushion out of the chair to ensure nothing is there. I'll go in the bathroom to see if no breadcrumbs in there as well. People do these things. And so and that's what persons are against. We approach these days as if it's one of those checklists. On our checklist, we just do this, and we get our house is clean, and then I feel like what the Pharisees would have done in the days is to bring over a friend and say, look here, look, examine the place, spotless, clean, right? And them life is a mess still. And they didn't care about that because what? They were more concerned with their image and how they look to persons who are looking on them rather than the spiritual aspect of the law. And so the days of unleavened bread reveal to us what is most important to God. It's more than just cleaning out the leaven out of your houses. It's more than just eradicating sin out of your lives. I know it might be shocking to some persons because it sounds like Jeremy now going off. What you mean it's more than just cleaning out the leaven and eradicating sin? Of course it's very important. But there's something even more important than just eradicating the sin out of your life. And if I were to take a poll, and the place get quiet now because I'm wondering what Jeremy going to say. Worry now, Stephen fretting. Right, Deacon Scale? Just kidding, I won't say anything crazy. But the days of unleavened bread, if I were to ask you and take a poll, what's the most important thing to God? I know many persons would say keeping the commandments, persons would say developing righteous, godly character, loving God and your neighbors and all of these things. And it sounds right, it sounds like one of those answers the politicians would give just to shut you up and say, yeah man, I'm on your side, this is what we, world peace. But it's not just about that. As a matter of fact, there is a step before you actually get to eradicating sin, taking the breadcrumbs out of your house. There's a step before that. And that's what the days of unleavened bread signifies. I'm going to tell you. Because those answers, obeying the law and loving your neighbor, loving God, is secondary. So 400 years earlier, before the days of unleavened bread, when the Israelites would be leaving Egypt, God made a promise to Abraham, and he said what? Know for sure that your descendants will be slaves in a land not their own. However, I will judge a nation that they serve, and afterwards they will leave with many possessions. So when the day of unleavened bread came, they were out. And what it says to me, at least, is that God is more interested in freedom. And I'm going to justify it. God is more interested in free will, free choice, and freedom. What happened when they left for the days during the day of unleavened bread is that they were restored to the point that Adam was at in the garden. They were rid, they had no sin, they were leaving Egypt, they were leaving slavery and bondage, and they were stepping into the newness of life, and they were what? Given a choice. They were given a choice. Just like when God created Adam and Eve, placed them in the garden, they had a choice. God could have created robots. And we say it all the time. He did not create robots because it was important for man to have free will, to choose to be like God or to choose to be like whoever he wanted to be. And so what Adam and Eve did was they chose to decide what is good and evil for themselves. And they ignored God. Forget about you, I'm going to go this way. But the days of unleavened bread now, because Adam and Eve had done that and had placed themselves in this sin mess, deserving of death, there was a need for God to send his son, die for the sins, shed his blood, and then restore man, to give him another opportunity, to give him another chance to choose what is right. And that's what the days of unleavened bread is about. So if you spend most of your life and most of your time cleaning out the house and cleaning the car, you're missing the point. You are totally missing the point. If you approach the days of unleavened bread with the mentality that you're only going to clean out your house and not address the sins in your life, you're totally missing the point. It might as well have the bull in the house still. You cannot approach the days of unleavened bread and expect that it's only clean physically, get rid of the leaven. What about leaven in your heart? And that's what the Pharisees had missed. You cannot fall in the same situation, read the text in the Bible and say, oh, Israel did that. What? Them fooly? Are you doing the same thing? So they had been given another chance to walk in the freeness of life. And that's what the Apostle Paul, he understood this very clearly. In Galatians 5 verse 13, for you brothers were called to freedom. You were called to freedom. But he goes on to say this, only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity to gratify the flesh. So yes, you're made free now, but don't use your freedom to gratify the desires of the flesh. You're totally putting yourself back under this bondage of sin. That's exactly what you're doing. When you read Jeremiah 7, verse 22, it says, when I brought your ancestors out of the land of Egypt, I did not speak to them or command them about burnt offerings or sacrifice. But I gave them this command, obey me and I'll be your God. I never talked to you about no sacrifice. So you said, wait, but they were supposed to sacrifice. All right, let's prove it. Because God is saying, I didn't talk to you about sacrifice or burnt offering. All I simply said was, obey my voice. And that's exactly what I wanted. Just obey me. Exodus 19 verse 4. You saw what I did to the Egyptians and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought it to myself. Now, if you carefully obey me and keep my covenant, you are to be my special possession of all the peoples. Where here did he say you're going to offer sacrifices, you're going to offer burnt offerings and so on? He didn't. And that's what they agreed to. They agreed to obeying God. They made a covenant. All that the Lord said, we will do. And so, when you come to the days of unleavened bread and Passover, we understand that you were purchased with the blood of the Lamb. You're not your own anymore. But you're living, and I'm not saying you, but persons are living as if they're living for themselves. You are purchased with the blood of the Lamb. And what the Passover does is it saves you from receiving your due wages, which is death. The problem is that throughout history, we have always brought ourselves back under the bondage of sin and death, always. If you read the Bible coming up to the Israelites and afterwards, we're always selling ourselves back into slavery. And Brother Murphy gave us a beautiful example last night. He said in 1808, a law was passed that the U.S. was not supposed to import any more slaves. And so, but this did not, wasn't fulfilled until 1838. And so the night when they were supposed to be free, the following day he was saying, there's this great party, people drinking, getting drunk, they're excited. What does freedom mean? They're anticipating what this freedom is going to be like. And that's what the Israelites were doing on that day. Wow, freedom. Tomorrow, we do not have to break our backs. We don't have to stand in the sun and we are our own man. No. We get to make our own choices and decisions and so on. So the following morning came now when they were supposed to be free, and I guess the landlord came out and said, all right, when you're free now, if you don't want to stay on the property, you have to pay $10 for rent. If you don't want to pay, you leave because you're not trespass. And so what they did was to start working for the man, sell himself again. Sell himself again under slavery. And so why did that happen? There's no clear plan. No clear leadership and no direction. You cannot approach the Feast of Unleavened Bread and don't have a plan to say, how exactly I'm going to live in this freedom. Because that's what they lacked. They were enjoying themselves the night before, but they did not take into consideration living expenses. And it's going to cost something. So the question is, and this is what it boils down to, having understood that we are now standing in this freedom, what do we do now? What do we do next? How do we ensure that we're not selling ourselves back under the bondage of sin? God has laid out in the plan of salvation how to contain sin itself. The world understands this very clearly. What they have done is they have taken the principles of God and dash for God. And what the church does is hug up God and dash for the principles. We know no sense. The people of the world is smarter than us. We hug up God, throw the principles, and then hug up the principles and dash for God. You don't see that mankind is just this destructive, self-destructive. And so if we follow the plans laid out, or the principles we get from the days of unleavened bread and the other feast days, what do we see? Whenever there's a crisis, whenever a decision needs to be made, whenever action needs to be taken, regular appointments. Very important. Regular appointments. And we have the days of unleavened bread and the other annual holy days. But that's not all, because we have the Sabbath every single week. Sabbath, very important. But persons are of the view that, you don't need to observe the Sabbath and thing. You can do it on any other. No. What the Sabbath does is it provides a structure for you. It's a structure. Regular appointments. So you know now, when you come into Sabbath service, it's not just to sit down on one bench. You think about, you prepare, and you implement. Every week you have a chance to do something different, to do something new. You get to start over, and that's why it's a 7-day cycle and not an infinity cycle. That don't make no sense. Every week you have an opportunity to start over. Regular appointments. Think about that. Next thing, strict timelines. The holy days, they're given timelines, appointed times, Mohed, Genesis 1:14. They have to adhere to the timeline. So whenever you have a decision to make in life, you're under some financial struggles and whatever, you say, all right, how am I going to overcome this? This is where I am at. This is where I need to be. The time it takes for me to get here is this, and I have to stick to it. You cannot be moving the borders all the time. So with the sin in our lives now, persons struggling with the same sin 20, 40, 50 years. You have to say to yourself, and that's what the days of unleavened bread does. This is when I need to overcome this. And then after that, we move on to something else. Strict timeline. And the other thing is commitment to the plan. You have to commit to the plan. If it is that you want to achieve a particular outcome, you cannot go on now and think that, willy-nilly, if it comes, it comes, but if not, you just work with it. No. You have a deadline, you have an objective, stick to it. And this is something we have to understand. We have to use the days of unleavened bread and the appointed times to understand this thing. What we need to know is that the feast days, the appointed times, are very practical. And it's not for us to put on our religious hat now and say, oh, we're just doing it like it's a ritual. It's a ceremony. We just come in and living as usual. No, you're not different from the persons worshiping on Sunday. It's the same thing that they're doing. You have to be different. Yes. You have to be set apart, and that's what God calls his people to be. To be set apart, you have to be different. And so the season signifies, and I'm coming to a close, the season signifies us walking in the newness of life, given a fresh opportunity to start over. I place before you life and death. choose life. That's what it's about. You are sitting in the same position Adam and Eve are sitting in. And every single day is not, the only thing is that our thing is probably more complicated. It's not just about eating from one tree or the other. Every single day, you have a decision to make. Every decision you take, you're either choosing life or you're choosing death. Our ancestors messed up in the past, and the penalty we have to pay now is death. But through the blood of the Lamb, we are made free from the penalty, which is death. And I encourage you, just like Paul, having been made aware that you are free, not to walk in your freedom just to gratify the desires of the flesh, but it's to walk in the newness of life, choosing to do what is right, which is choose life and serve God and live. God bless you.